Today, we're going to work on part 2 of writing and solving percent word problems. Today, we're going to be finding the total. So we're going to use the same formula, part equals rate times total. The directions say write and solve an equation for each problem. Substitute the percent and the part in the formula. Convert the percent to a decimal and then solve to find the total, sometimes called the whole. So our first word problem says Carissa correctly answered 23 questions on a test. She scored 92%. How many questions were on the test? So as we look at this, when it mentions that she scored 23 or answered 23 questions correctly, this is the part. And the percent, we call the percentage rate for R. And so we're being asked to find how many total questions are on the test. So that's what we don't know. So in our formula, P equals R times T, we're going to substitute the numbers that were given in the word problem in the correct spot. So 23 were the part of the questions that Carissa answered correctly. So we're going to place 23. We're going to replace P with 23. The percentage rate given is 92%. And T for total, we don't know. That's the question. So sometimes when I use the variable T, I put a little curve on it at the bottom so it doesn't look like a plus sign. So next, the directions state that they want us to convert the percent to a decimal. So we're going to get rid of the percent sign. We're going to place the hidden decimal back behind so we can scoop it. I'm going to use a shortcut. I'm going to scoop once, twice, and now we have 0 and 0.92. And then I'm going to write down the T because we don't know it yet, and 23. So we now have a decimal instead of percent. If you have a calculator, you can just take 92 and divide it by 100 and not worry about the scoops. So let's stop and look at this. Yesterday, when we did the matching lesson part 1, we had a number here and a number here, and they were side by side, so we multiplied. Now we have a variable next to it. So side by side means multiply, but we can't multiply because we have a variable, not a number. This is an example where we need to solve. So we are going to build our wall, and we're going to divide both sides by 0.92, or 0 and 92 hundredths pronounced correctly. So please pause and use your calculator to take 23 divided by 0.92. And hopefully you had 25 equals T. So now let's go back and talk about what T means. Well, the question, what was the total number of questions? So how many questions were on the test? There were 25 questions on the test. Okay, let's move forward. Our next question says, at a basketball game, Marcus scored 30% of the total points scored. He scored 15 points. What was the total points scored? So we're going to start again with our formula. P equals RT. And now if we look back up, we can tell that this is the percentage points. Marcus, 30%. And he scored 15 points, which was part of the points. And we're trying to find the total. It clearly tells us total, which is sometimes nice when it does that. So the part is 15, part of the points we're told scored. 30% is the rate, and we do not know the total. So we want to convert this to a decimal. And so we're going to place the decimal point and scoop to the left 2 places. We have 15 equals 0, that's a placement 0.3, and I could put that 0, but I don't have to necessarily put that 0. I want you to know that 0.30 is the same as 0.3. So it's up to you, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and leave it 30 so it looks more consistent, and the variable t. So now, because these are not side by side, or there's not two numbers side by side, I have a number and a variable, it means I need to use my solving skills. So we're going to build a wall. We're going to divide both sides by 0.3 or 0.30 to find the answer. So pause and use your calculator and take 15 divided by 0.30. The answer would be 50. So we have 50 equals t, and t was the total number of points. So we can say there were 50 total points scored at the game. All right, final question. At Harrison Elementary School, 80% of the students ride a bus to school. If 300 students ride a bus to school, how many students are enrolled at Harrison Elementary? So once again, we're trying to use part equals rate times time. And I think it's helpful to go back and find the pieces, and I call them pieces, but what the numbers that we need to substitute. We're seeing 80%. I think the percent is always the easiest to find because it's more obvious with the percentage sign. And it goes on to say that if 300 students ride the bus, how many students are enrolled? Well, enrollment means the total. So we don't know that, but we do know that the part of the students ride the bus, and that's 300. So we're going to replace those variables. 300 students out of a total that we don't know ride the bus, and that's 80% of the students, but we want to know the total. So we're going to once again scoop that decimal, or we're going to put the decimal at the end and scoop it twice. Again, we could write this as 0.8, or if it makes you more comfortable, you can put the 0 so it matches what we see. Again, if you're uncomfortable with the scooping method, I would take 80 divided by 100, works every time on the calculator. Once again, as we look at this, I don't have two numbers side by side, so I can't multiply, and I want this variable isolated. So I do that by doing the opposite of what I see. Side by side means multiply, so we're going to use division because we want the variable, the total, by itself. So please pause and use your calculator to find the answer. And the answer is 375 equals t. T, once again, represents the total, so that means that there are 375 students enrolled at Harrison Elementary. So let's write that. There are 375 students enrolled at Harrison Elementary. Thanks so much. So please go on and work on the practice sheet. Have a wonderful day.